www.sau21.org. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are any problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-926-8992, extension 103, or email Rhonda Evans at revans@sau21.org. And D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We'll start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Rhonda, it's all yours.
You're muted, Rhonda.
Sorry. Greg Merrow. Greg Parrish.
Present. I have family moving in and out of the room.
Mark Lane.
I'm here and there's no one in the room.
John Bailey. Jason Farias.
I'm here. No one present at the moment.
Okay, I have the roll call.
Okay.
I see Greg Merrow has just joined us.
First we have
Greg Merrow just arrived. I've added him to the roll call.
okay. You all set, Greg?
I think he's muted.
Okay. Okay, we have the minutes for March 25th, 2020. Any questions regarding those minutes from anyone? There being no questions, can I get a motion to accept the March 25th, 2020 regular meeting minutes as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All
I'll
yours,
second.
Rhonda.
Okay, Greg Parrish,
Yes.
Mark Lane,
Yes.
Jason Farias,
Yes.
and Greg Merrow.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Matt, financial report.
Yeah, so we have attached the year-to-date revenue and expenditure reports. And as you'll see, there have not been any significant changes from last month. That being said, as I had mentioned at our last meeting, we are carefully monitoring our expenditures and additional costs that are tied to our remote learning. Obviously, we are going to recognize some savings in regard to items related to the building, such as electricity, heating, fuel, some supplies accounts, transportation, etc. However, we have made some investments in our remote learning, which include items such as technology hotspots to provide internet access for our students, some software and subscriptions, Zoom to provide the professional subscription as opposed to the free version, which is somewhat insecure. I'm sure you've seen in the news of Zoom bombing is what they call it. However, our secure version does provide us that security and safeguards us against any of those potential issues. We invested in DocuSign to provide for electronic signatures and other items such as that. Bill will talk about what we're hearing from the state level. However, once we do get an idea of when we will be returning, in a concrete date, we'll be able to better estimate the actual costs, either, both from an expenditure and a savings perspective. And I'm hoping that at next month's meeting, we'll have those locked in, and I'll be able to provide a year-end estimate for where we should end up. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So Matt, do you have no sense for whether this will cost us money or save us money?
So for this fiscal year, I anticipate that this will save us money. We're fairly well set up when it comes to technology. We already had the one-to-one initiative in place. A good percentage of our students already have internet access. And we're saving significant sums, in areas such as transportation, and in some of those other aforementioned accounts that I had mentioned. So this year, I foresee no issues when it comes to expenditures. Next year, or whenever we, re-enter school, and we may have to make some decisions as to how we continue our learning process from remote back to in classroom, in which we may have to make some investments, whether it's a robust summer program, additional resources in the classroom, staffing. I don't know, because but once we determine, what the re-entry looks like, then there may be investment there. Now, that being said, there are funds coming our way, both from the federal and likely from the state level as well. So.
I just had one other follow-up to that. Have we been able to make investments in this technology that'll serve us later on down the line that we would not have to make if this ever happened again, because we have it in place, you think? Or is that?
So that's a decision point that we need to determine. Two things off the top of my head would be our Zoom subscription and our DocuSign electronic signature subscriptions. Now, our DocuSign, I envision maintaining indefinitely. As you know, as part of our technology plan, we were transitioning that way anyway. We just hastened that process, and kind of we haven't gone online yet with our AP and our in payroll and et cetera, but we'll be doing that process in this coming year, and then we'll continue this electronic signature piece. When it comes to Zoom, that's an area where we likely won't continue a subscription. Depending on what we're looking at coming out of this, maybe we talk about a blended model. That might change, but it's a little uncertain at this time, before we know how long this extends and when we're coming back. So.
Thanks.
Matt, I have a question regarding the reentry plan cost. Do you have any idea from a timing perspective?
Lost you, Greg.
Yes. No, we didn't hear anything you said, Greg.
Oh, you didn't hear any of that?
Not a word. Not a word.
All right. Sorry, my connection's going in and out. My apologies.
No worries.
Matt, regards to reentry cost, do you have any idea what budget year, if not both, we could work with to help spread these costs out over this year's budget and next year's budget, or is it too early to determine that?
Yeah, it's likely going to be next year's budget. That being said, we can access, or we anticipate the ability to access those federal and state funds
Okay.
next operating budget cycle, or next fiscal year rather. So
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for Matt? Thank you, Matt.
you're welcome.
Bill, before I move on to public comment, I noticed there's no report from either you or Beth. Am I reading that correctly?
So what we'll do is we'll give a series of reports under the update on school closure.
Okay. So what I will do at this point is under item number 4, public comment. Does the public who are in attendance this evening have any questions for the board regarding the agenda? None being asked, I will close public comment and move on to number 5, continuing business. Update on COVID-19 relative to school closure.
Thank you. So what we'll do here is I'll start with a few comments and ask Dr. Hobbs, Dr. Arkillian, Mr. Ferrara, and then Ms. Rossi to make some comments relative to the closure. So let me start by saying that we are anticipating hearing from the governor by Thursday of this week. That's what we were told on our call with the commissioner last week. We anticipate hearing from the governor what next steps may be beyond May the 1st. There have been some comments that the governor's made this week in some interviews and newspapers and television that he can't see a scenario under which schools would reopen this year. We anticipate that that's him setting the table for his announcement on Thursday, but we'll let you know when we hear. Just as important as that is the discussion that's now going on in this state and others around what the conditions of reentry would need to look like. We've heard discussion about masks. We've heard discussion about smaller group sizes. We've heard discussion, I actually saw one in between our 2 meetings today, about split sessions in order to cut down on the number of kids in the building at any given time. All of these things are being discussed by health experts, policymakers, as conditions under which schools might need to implement in order to reopen. So we simply don't know. We hope some of that guidance begins to come with the governor's announcement later this week. I have been involved in discussions with a number of town officials, particularly those from Seabrook, Northampton, and Hampton. And Thursday morning, Senator Sherman has invited me to sit with a number of town administrators, including yours, to discuss issues with him and with that group and other legislators. They're interested in what's happening for our families in terms of meals and support for learning and those kinds of things. And so I've been asked to sit in and brief them as part of that discussion. Matt mentioned earlier the federal funds that will be coming our way, and we're anticipating getting some information on that very, very shortly. It falls under the CARE Act, where we're anticipating this first wave of monies will be about 85% of what we normally see in Title I funding. But those monies will be able to be spent on a wide array of uses for issues that we can relate to COVID-19. And of course, there are a lot of those. Matt's already mentioned a number of them to you, but we're anticipating that we'll begin to see the applications for those monies in the next 2 weeks. In fact, I just saw, again, before I came to this meeting, that the feds have rolled out the first of those dollars late this afternoon. I don't know whether New Hampshire was included among those, but we anticipate we'll be applying for those dollars very, very soon. And the other thing I want to say, which I get to say at all of these meetings, is just what great work, in particular, the 4 people I work with at the SAU who are here at this meeting have done, and that your administration, and I would include your teachers, have done. Beth has done really marvelous work. Melissa has done incredible work. I've sat in a couple meetings with her on a couple of different topics. And your teachers have really done amazing work. And I hear much of that from parents who've written to me about the great work that those people have done. And so thank you to Beth and to the 4 SAU people who are here, and Melissa, who's not, and to all of your teachers. So I'll turn it over, unless you have questions on anything I said. I would turn this over to Dr. Hobbs, who can walk you through a couple other pieces.
Sure, thanks. I think I covered a lot of this at joint board, but I want to make sure I give you guys updates. With respect to curriculum instruction assessment, we've had a lot of conversations around grading and reporting final grades. This is above and beyond, the normal feedback that teachers are giving to their students in remote learning. This would be what, a final grade issuance looks like. So we've run that by staff and communicated that with staff. I gave you guys an update at the joint board. Today, in fact, we drafted a letter to go home to parents. What that's going to look like is basically an SAU letter coming out first, and then a school-specific letter coming out shortly thereafter, talking about the nuts and bolts of how we're going to report final grades. For you guys who are doing dual reporting, it's really not going to be that much different. You're going to see both competency measurement and traditional measurement. However, the traditional measurement is going to be more of what I would call a distilled rubric based on the body of work that students have produced throughout trimester 3. The issue is with that letter is going to be timing. As Dr. Lupini mentioned, we're expecting an announcement from the governor on Thursday. So we just want to be aware of the number of messages we're sending home at once. Certification. Unbelievably, we've gotten the vast majority of our teachers certified through this process, even in remote learning. We are down to 1 or 2 left that we have to follow up with, but that process is almost complete for our SAU for the spring, which is great. Summative evaluations, we're also able to conduct summative evaluations. Now, these aren't walkthroughs in classrooms or formative evaluations, but they are summative. We're able to use Frontline to document those for this school year. So we're able to wrap that process up. One last thing for me is just for the purposes of accountability. We continue to do our weekly form for teachers where they're reporting the number of hours they're putting in, the number of hours students are asked to work on their assignments, participation rates, all that kind of stuff. So that goes out. I process it on over the weekend, and then it goes out to principals on Monday morning, so they get a look at what's going on in the classrooms. So that's where we are with respect to curriculum instruction assessment.
Thank you.
Can I ask-
Sorry.
Can I ask a quick question? And I don't know if I'm premature on this question because maybe Beth has something to say about it, but it sounds to me like everyone's pretty happy with the teachers and the process and everything that's happened in terms of curriculum. But is there a way, or is there a sense, or is it a gut feeling? How do you measure whether or not all the kids are ready to move on, or are missing a piece of something that's important that they would have normally gotten, or maybe it's even better. I don't know because of the strange circumstances. But is there a way to measure whether or not the kids that are moving to the next level are getting everything they need?
Right. I think I'm sure Beth will have comments on this, but she made actually one of the best points at the principals meeting the other day when we were talking about it, in that a lot of our competency work that we've done thus far is really going to be diagnostic in nature for this spring. We're going to be able to kind of be able to report on where kids are. And of course, we're going to be able to look at deficiencies or gaps in learning that we might need to remedy over the course of summer instruction possibly, or even next fall. That's part of the reason why we wanted to continue to report in the way that we have thus far.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Beth, you want to say something to this now?
I do. Hello, everyone, and thanks both David and Bill. I'll try not to repeat, but on a more personal level for Lincoln Ackerman families, I do want to say that we're all trying to lead with our hearts. We understand what families are up against. I have heard from many parents. I reach out to them. I try to call. Many have emailed me, and what we're doing is not easy. I think everyone can acknowledge that. Parents have emailed me, and when they do, sometimes they come in waves and sometimes they don't. And what I try to do is reach out to different staff members and just say, this is just information that we need to absorb and understand and adapt to. So I couldn't be more proud of this staff. I don't always like to use that term, but it's, you know, I've admired their ability to listen, understand, lead with compassion, and then adapt what they're doing to the families that need something different. Some kids need something less, some kids need something more, and I think they're trying to apply that wherever it's needed. Going back to what David said with the grading, that's about to come out. And there's nothing punitive about the grading that will report for trimester 3. It's all about information, being diagnostic with kids, because there's nothing normal about what we're doing and what we're experiencing, and there will be nothing normal about the start of next school year. So I think as much diagnostic transitional information that we can have on a child, we'll be able to accommodate that in the fall, which is yet to be planned. So Mark, I hope that answers your question. I do want to say that as a staff, we continue to meet. We have a leadership meeting tomorrow. They still have team meetings every single week. Both Melissa and I continue to sit in on them as best we can. And there we get the information on different families, and we encourage families to reach out to us. And anytime that they do, for example, I'll give you a situation. A parent emailed me the other day. She said, you know, both my husband and I are still working in the house. We're trying to keep up with the academics. So I just recommended, if you have to let some of the UA go for right now, then we can do that. We can accommodate that. Parents who have children that have IEPs, they're struggling. We're all over it. We're trying to adapt to those needs as well to make sure that what is best for the child is the question that's always being answered, and that'll continue to change as we go. I do think a lot of families have kind of hit a limit, so I think to slow down a little bit, I've encouraged staff to do that as we hear that. You know, and then some other kids say, push me, push me, push me. So, you know, we're trying to apply enrichment where we need that as well. We're also, just to shift gears a little bit, we're also thinking of our 8th graders. We want to honor them and we want to celebrate them. So we're trying to find new and different ways to not only hang on to tradition, but also to find a way to celebrate them so that they understand how we feel about them and how we honor them and how we wish them the best as they move on in a few weeks. Other than that, I guess I would ask you, do you have any questions of me?
Beth, it's Greg Parrish. I have a question. Do you find, or are you finding any particular grade level that is struggling more so than another grade level? Or is second grade?
That's a good question, Greg, because that comes in waves. So last weekend, for example, it seemed to be grades 5 and 6. And when I heard from a wave of parents, I set up some phone call conversations with them. I took that information from parents, gave it to that team. They had a team meeting last Friday. They recrafted what they were doing based on parent concerns, and you know, that's what we're saying to you, is we just keep adapting what we're doing.
Okay.
I mean, we do want to meet the needs of. Go ahead.
For what it's worth, I'm not.
That must have been a complaint.
You're aware of that, and it sounds like you're addressing it. So-
We hear you, Greg.
We
Greg,
hear you,
I totally missed that, Greg.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
not going to remember that.
It was a good, I'm sure it's a good
Oh.
speech.
What I was going to say, but what I said, Beth, is I'm not hearing anything bad. What I'm hearing is something you've already acknowledged, which is you have two parents working, they have young kids at home, and just struggling to juggle everything right now. But it sounds like you're on top.
We are very, very aware of frustrations within the home, and we're trying to be very conscious of it on a daily basis. I do want people to know that it's the name of the game right now. People are losing jobs, people are suffering, and kids are lonely as well. So I think a lot of what we've tried to apply is more of the online face-to-face. And when a parent says to me, but kids are just talking to each other, that's a good thing. We want kids to be able to talk to each other. A lot of kids are only children. They don't have that interaction. They're missing each other. And Jason, They miss your playground.
I just had one follow-up question too, Beth, is you started to talk about, the kids that have an IEP. Are they, specifically if there's a student that is used to one-on-one, how do we manage that? I mean, how is there?
With a lot of care, and is Caroline here tonight?
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
Do you want to answer that, Caroline?
Sure. We reach out as much as humanly possible is the short answer. But, also understanding that students with significant disabilities may have less of a propensity to want to look at a computer screen or discuss, school over Zoom or Google Meet. However, I will say that the special educators and speech and language and OT are incredibly resourceful and creative right now. They have scoured the resources, and they're using everything to reach kids. So a student who may have had a one-to-one in the past, they're getting an organized reach out system where the team organizes that together. The speech and language would meet with a student one day, perhaps the EA would reach out the next day to help support in that work, the case manager, whoever else, the BC who works with a student. They're doing some things where they provide some things ahead of time with activities and they review the activities, and then there are follow-up activities. So it's pretty great, all the different opportunities that they're providing kids and different times to get kids together. It's amazing what they've done in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, thank you.
So
can I just add, I just would like to add one more thing. I don't want to forget our social emotional learning goals. And I do want to add that our mission impact group of middle schoolers, they've read books on tape, and they send them to nursing homes. They have video chats with people in nursing homes. All the same work that they were doing, they've tried to go online with. So I just want to mention some of those things. You'll have a video coming out tomorrow. It's a big thank you to all the first responder parents and people in town that are first responders. So I think also we're trying to connect kids to other parts of the population that are working through this crisis and in support of us. So just to make them more aware, and also to continue to promote a sense of empathy and compassion for those folks. It's hard online, let me put it that way. We do miss the kids, but we want to continue with our goals as well.
So I had one last question, Beth. What about I know first and second graders are a lot smarter today than when I was in first and second grade, but are they adapting to learning online as easily as everyone expected, or is that more of a challenge for the younger kids?
It's definitely more of a challenge. It's a lot shorter, and it's much more blended. I am going to send you, we've had a couple of teachers participate in podcasts on their experience with this. And one of them is Colette Elsie, who is our first grade teacher. She's done an incredible job with this. I hear from parents about it all the time. And it's just a blended way of doing activities. Sometimes she engages them in the household. It's just she has found the right balance for this age group. And I think they're all working really hard at it. Jill Berry in grade 2, she did her morning meetings, which is part of our school day. And one of the kids said, well, you left out the Pledge of Allegiance. And I know that our fire department, I know I leave it to a first grader to remind us, but she's like, you're absolutely right. And she started with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then apparently one of the firefighters got hold of it and had them all down there, spaced them all 6 feet apart, and they did it all together the next day. So
That's
it's
cool.
just, there's a lot of really nice stories that are also happening. And I know there's a silver lining in this, and I'm sure we'll discover it next September, but I don't know. There's a lot of really good things going on, and I also understand that there's a lot of frustration. So I'll end with the way I started. It's just we just continue to lead with our heart and try to understand people and their situations and adapt as we go.
Thank you.
Beth, if I can add to your story a little bit, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but this past Saturday there was a group of parents along with our police department and fire department that did a parade through town with the Easter Bunny. And
Oh, yes, very aware.
it was very impactful. I've seen many pictures, and you could see it in people's faces, both the adults, the parents, the kids. It was quite impactful, and I think it helped out a lot. So
I do,
wanted
and
to
I
share.
think the timing was just right. Yes, I did get the tiger outfit out of my office.
I do too.
So, but the teachers will be doing that again in a couple of weeks, and we can't wait to see them.
Okay.
Dr. Arkelian.
Sure. Just a couple quick updates. As far as our meal distribution program, we added a third route to our service on Friday, and as a result, we have additional. We delivered to 20 additional students on Friday and Monday, and reports are that it's the most streamlined and efficient yet. So we're really happy to hear that. We're still providing pickup, meals for pickup Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at both Seabrook and Winnicott locations. And any of our students, any district can go and pick up meals, whether you qualify for free reduced lunch or not. You don't need to sign up. You just go and pick up meals anytime that works for families. So that's going really well. We have a lot of training going on as far as the Medicaid Compliance Alliance. You had Dan Porter, who presented for the joint board in January. He's holding group trainings for our related services. So SLP, OT, PT, BCBA, school psych, social workers, in preparation for compliant IEPs. And our billing for the year, which is going to happen very soon. And I look forward to bringing you an update on that. We're also paying close attention to our educational associates to make sure that they have access and provided with professional development right now. So in particular, data governance training. That's around privacy and security of using the internet and Google and devices when in this remote learning environment. So we'll be providing that. Also, I know that Melissa McKeon is holding weekly meetings with EAs to keep them in the loop, to hear what they need. It's been really helpful for all of our districts to hold weekly EAs, especially during this time. And then finally, I mentioned this on our last Saturday, but we have a new resource for parents. It's our nurses and counselors and social emotional team from all of our schools contributed to a list of resources for parents around care, comforts, and support. So everything from dealing with stress and anxiety in the home, in this situation in particular, to medical concerns, medical issues, resources for food and insurance, and coping with grief, and contact information for different people in our districts like nurses. So there's a link on the SAU 21 website called New for Parents, Care, Comforts, and Supports. That's for everyone. And that's it for my update. Mhm.
Thank you. So let me just make sure that you know that if you compare the first day that we did meals to last Friday, we've nearly doubled the number of students who are accessing meals from us in that period of time. And we expect that to continue to increase. Mr. Farrar.
Yes, so from an operations perspective, we do continue to limit access to all of our SAU 21 buildings to essential personnel only. This is in order to perform those necessary tasks that Caroline just mentioned, including the school nutrition team to prepare meals for those students, our facilities to conduct any required maintenance or repairs in the buildings, or other similar activities. But we're really trying to maintain a clean and sanitized building and limits access. As I've previously reported, we did contract a professional remediation company to sanitize and disinfect all of our SAU 21 buildings. And this will occur again prior to the students and staff returning to school. Again, the health of our staff, our students, is of the utmost priority. So we want to make certain that we're prepared for when we do re-enter the schools. Our human resources, payroll, and accounts payable are fully functional. We are continuing our operations, all of those operations in this remote environment. So this means we're continuing our payroll uninterrupted, so that for all of our teachers and staff, all the people that are doing this amazing work in order to continue this educational instruction remotely. Additionally, we're paying our vendors on time, and we are conducting our normal hiring process. This means our interviews with any prospective candidates are done via video conference, via Google Meeting or Zoom, and all paperwork and contract executed online via DocuSign. So those are two subscriptions that you all know that we've contracted this year for this remote environment. Additionally, our technology teams remain an incredibly important part of this successful remote learning. They've really worked nonstop and tirelessly to support all of our students, teachers, and staff to make sure that they're all up and running and that we're able to leverage and maximize our existing technology and invest in any necessary software subscriptions or other technology to make certain that we are successful. I do want to take this opportunity. I mentioned this during the parent forum, but for everyone who's listening, you know, all these operations teams, all these behind the scenes workers are incredibly important to maintain the function of our school. So this includes our human resources team, our payroll, our accounts payable, school nutrition workers who are feeding our families, finance, our office support staff, our facilities teams and technology teams. They oftentimes don't get recognized, but I mean, they really are the lifeblood of the operations, and I want to thank them all for doing such an exceptional job. Finally, I'd already mentioned a little bit about finance, and I just want to reiterate that we are continuing to monitor our any potential funding that we could receive, both from the federal and from the state side. We know that with the CARES Act, we should be seeing those funds and know the exact number in short order. So once we have those final numbers, we'll be able to act accordingly and start planning for how we can invest those dollars to maximize our services and to best support both our teachers and our students during this learning environment. Thank you.
Any other questions on any of that?
Actually, Bill, I do. It's Greg Parrish. I have a re-entry question for you, Bill.
Mhm.
You mentioned, did I fade out?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, sorry. I have a re-entry question regarding conditions. You mentioned face masks, smaller groups. Are those conversations pertaining to a re-entry plan sooner, or are we talking those are the conversations for a September re-entry plan or part of that plan?
Those are the conversations about what it would take for schools and other organizations to start up, whenever that would be.
Okay.
So think of the conversation not as a date, which is what we've been operating under so far, right? Our governor, other governors have set dates, but think of it, we're seeing more and more conversation about a set of conditions that would have to be met, certain markers in terms of public health, and then certain things that we would have to put in place beyond that. So we're starting to see, for example, the Boston Globe ran an article today about colleges and universities in the Boston area who are making plans as if they will be online in the fall so that they have those plans, right? And we're having conversations not only about field trips that were to have taken place at the end of this year, but we were asked today by some principals about field trips for next year. And again, if certain conditions don't get met, those are the things we have to do. So the conversation we're starting to pay a lot of attention to. It won't be generated by us, right? It'll be people in a better position to assess these things than the group you have with you. But yeah, what are the things that we would have to have in place? What would we have to do in order to convene some semblance of what we know of as school? And that's the conversation we're really tuned into right now.
So hypothetically, could we be responsible for supplying masks?
Hypothetically, we have to have a conversation about a number of different things that might have to be in place for school to occur. We would certainly hope that for many, if not all of those things, there would be supporting dollars from the feds or state government to help us offset those costs. That's what the conversations have been about with respect to CARE so far. But CARE is going to be the first, we think, of multiple federal pieces of federal legislation.
Which leads me to my next question. Are we applying as a Hampton Falls School District for federal funds? Are we applying as the SAU 21 school district,
Yeah.
or a combination of both? For
Well,
federal
right
funds?
now, it's a great question. Right now, so the answer to your question in big broad strokes is it depends how they drive the dollars, right? So right now, the first
Okay.
CARE Act, the dollars are being driven. Don't think of them as Title I dollars, but just think of them being driven in the same manner that Title I dollars have been driven. So they're applying the same formula. So that's a district by district conversation. It could very well be that FEMA dollars may be driven in the same way, but there may be dollars down the road where we can marshal all the resources of our area, quite frankly. This SAU, maybe others, to apply for funds. But right now they are district by district.
My last question for you. We are dancing around the subject and being prepared for potential closure of the closure of schools for the remaining of the year. Are we preparing the teachers and our staff for this as well, and how are they taking it?
So the governor through the commissioner promised us runway. on this, promised us lead time. I will say that that promise was made the last time when it was extended from early
Okay.
April till May. And we found out on the day he made the announcement, which was not enough lead time to do what you just said, which I think is one of the more important things we can do, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Is to prepare people. And so, so we prepare letters and prepare documents and prepare for meetings that might have to occur now for what we expect might happen at the end of the week or early next week. Because quite frankly, what I personally saw and felt when we went from April to early May is that even though I think you kind of knew that was coming, it becomes more real when you actually know. And so I think if we're going to be closed through the end of the year, which is, you know, a real possibility given the comments you hear the governor making, we have to be prepared for that. And so we are in process right now of preparing for that option, that eventuality, whatever you want to call it, and making sure that we support people. And the effect on people the last time, Greg, was pretty. It's pretty difficult for people who are devoted to working for serving kids. That's a difficult thing to hear. We have people who are retiring. I've heard stories from principals about what some of them are going through because they thought their career was going to end in a certain way, and it's not. I was with high school seniors today, as I mentioned earlier. I've heard from principals about conversations with 8th graders and 8th graders' parents. And those are all very difficult things because there's still this huge degree of uncertainty attached to all of that. So, you know, the more we'll continue to provide resources, we'll continue to provide supports, we'll continue to do forums for parents and students. We'll continue to get as far out in front of some of these issues as we can get without being characterized as being way over our skis.
Okay.
So.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our work right now. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Yeah, no, and you guys are doing great, and there's a lot of uncertainty here. I just, a few questions there. Does anybody have any additional questions for Dr. Lupini and the rest of his team?
I'd like to actually get a word in if I could. I just wanted to mention that, you know, as we know that it's obvious that we're not going to be starting up here in May, and there are colleges that are already talking about not even having in-person classes until year 2021. So I guess I'm hoping that in the back of your mind, as you're planning how to deal with this summer, is looking at the graduation and how that's going to affect the 8th graders. I know I've got a son who's pretty disappointed that he missed the New York trip, which is something he's been looking for ever since he's been at LAS. And we get it. I know that's tough on all of us, but especially graduation, which is such a big, important part of our life that we remember forever kind of thing. So I hope we really can come up with something that really is as spectacular as these guys deserve. Another thing I wanted to mention, and maybe this is more directed to Beth, but one of the things that Cammie's social worker did at Winnicott is she was on the unified basketball team. And so a couple of days ago, they just had a Google Meet under the auspices of being getting the team together. And there was no teaching involved or anything. The coach acted as a facilitator, but really it was the students, the kids that talked and ran the whole conversation. It was really about what are you doing now? And it was a great way of reconnecting. And it seemed like it was an awful lot of fun. And there was absolutely no mention of school per se, other than they, you know, relived some of their games that they played and talked about, you know, where they're going to go on vacation this summer and that sort of thing if they can. So that might be something, if it hasn't been implemented at the school, you might want to just sort of think about, because that seemed to be very, 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 very successful. And then last, I just want to mention that I hope we all keep in mind is that this is unprecedented, and this is extremely inconvenient for everyone across the board, not just our students, but, you know, everybody that's involved in school across not only New Hampshire, but the country and the world. And to think that learning is linear is the way we have been taught and brought up, and it's been ingrained into all of our heads, that it's a linear, it's not logarithmic, it's linear as we go from grade to grade, but it's really almost impossible to compare apples to apples when you're thinking about the way education was being delivered 3 months ago, as opposed to how it's going to be delivered in 2 or 3 months from now. It really is all about winging it because we don't have any precedent. And I personally have a tremendous amount of faith in our SAU and our teachers and our principal in their efforts and their decisions and their intentions going forward. I do not question these experts who have spent their whole lives in this career. I would actually put out to you, is there anything that we can do as a board or even as individual people and parents that we can do to help ease your job? You guys are being these great crisis managers, you know, and you're fielding all these questions, but you guys also need some break from this as well. And you need some sort of reprieve, and you guys are sort of the unsung heroes. And I just don't know enough about what you do and what you're going through to be able to interject on my own some good ideas of what we should do or should offer. So I throw that out there, hoping that if there's something that we can do, someone will nibble on that and send it on up to Greg or anybody else on the board. You guys truly have the finger on the pulse of the school, the kids, the educators, the staff, and the parents. And I applaud you for that, and I thank you for that. I'm honestly, I'm glad I'm not in your shoes. But I would like to help in any way that I can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg.
I really appreciate that. Let me just say a word about the first part of that question. As I said, I met with seniors today, and I would echo this for our 8th graders. I've started to have conversations with principals about what they might do with respect to graduation, and they are all being exceptionally creative with ideas of what they might be able to do right after what would have been graduation, and then a commitment to, if there's some way to bring kids together at some point, whether that's the summer, the fall, whatever that may be, a commitment to try to find that way, whatever that way may be. And so that's been sort of our 2-pronged test of all of this. Let's figure out something creative we can do to honor you all. And that may be multiple things. In fact, at the high school, it's going to be multiple things right after June, or right in June. And then how do we figure out some way to maybe bring you together for some kind of ceremony where you're all together at some point down the line. So I know that's the commitment of every one of our principals who works with 8th graders to do that same thing. Beth, you want to jump in here?
Greg, thank you so much for your kind words. And, you asked what you can do. As a board, you already do it. Our staff knows that you are behind us. We know that this isn't easy. We know we're making mistakes, but we're also trying to correct them and keep what the child needs as the first priority. So we're going to keep doing that, and we're just going to persevere and keep doing what we're doing. And to get back to the 8th grade, we do have a couple things in the works, and we're going to continue to think together and be creative together, and knowing that we can't have a large gathering. So we're going to do our best we can with that, but also we really want to honor good LAS traditions. So more to come on that.
Does anybody have anything else? Greg, those were
Thank you.
gracious words. I agree with everything you said. Thank you. Mark or Jay, do you have anything?
No.
Okay, I'm going to move on. School board calendar update.
How's that going for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's boring, Greg.
I'm really
Come
sure
on.
what. Yeah, well, we'll move on to the more exciting topic, which is our 2019-2020 board goals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why those items are there, but
Yeah.
does anybody have any comment on either of those
We might want to change our goals to get school back.
Okay,
Yeah.
hearing none, we'll move on. Yeah. Goals
I
will be
second that.
interesting next year.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Do we need a vote on that, Bill?
You do not.
Item number 6, school district clerk.
So, Matt, do you want to do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So as you're aware, the school district clerk came up on ballot this March. However, we did not receive any. There were no candidates on the ballot. So as such, any person that received write-in votes, or the person that received the most write-in votes, is given that opportunity to accept the position. As such, there was one Hampton Falls resident who did receive 2 write-in votes, and that was Mary Non, and she has accepted the appointment as the Hampton Falls School District Clerk. So her term will run for 3 years through March 14th of 2023.
Great. Thank you.
And again, Bill, what's the responsibility of that role?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you got that information. Matt, Rhonda, can anybody jump in on that?
Yeah, so this the role of this position is to they swear in new school board members. They'll post any for the deliberative session, and then we'll be present at that deliberative session.
Okay.
It's a pretty limited role.
I'll work with creating the ballot,
Okay.
doing the minutes at the
At
deliberative
the
session.
Yeah, so it's administrative, pretty straightforward.
And that's it. Okay.
I believe that Nancy Tuttle may have spoken to Mary, and she's comfortable fulfilling that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Matt regarding the school district clerk? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item B, board vacancy. Mark, as some of you know, Mark was elected to our select board this year, and congratulations to him. And as you see in your packet, if you will, Mark submitted his letter of resignation to Dr. Lupini and myself last week. I believe we received it for a July 1st time frame to find someone. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd do whatever it takes, be on the board and participate for as long as it takes. But I just threw a date out there because I thought I should.
Okay. Now, Dr. Lupini, we need to accept and vote on this, correct?
You don't need to accept a resignation of a board member. You certainly may do that.
Okay.
And the other piece that we prepared for you, that Rhonda actually prepared for you, is an advertisement that would get the process started, and actually the timeline that's been created on this particular vacancy notice would get applications in a time frame where you could interview if you chose to do so at the May meeting.
Okay. So with that being said, Mark, with great regret, but I understand why you're deciding to move on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for everything you've done. And I've really enjoyed working with you, and I know you're going to do good things on the select board. So with regret, I do accept, or we accept. Thank you.
Yeah, way to go, Mark.
Thank you.
No, I know. With regard to the vacancy, I will read. I did print this, Bill, so I do want to read this. I think I probably should. If I'm not, if I think I have to, that's fine. Okay.
No, please do.
So the following will be posted April 15th But for immediate release, the school board vacancy, Hampton Falls School District, Hampton Falls, April 15th, 2020. The Hampton Falls School Board is accepting letters of interest from Hampton Falls residents to fill an interim position on its board. Interested individuals must be a registered voter in the town of Hampton Falls and will serve until the March 2021 election. Please submit your letter of interest to Hampton Falls School Board, care of Superintendent of Schools, SAU 21, 2 Lanai Drive, Hampton, New Hampshire, 03842, or by email to Rhonda Evans at revans@sau21.org. The closing date is May 7th, 2020. The process to fill the vacancy may include public interviews. Do we need to vote on posting that, or are we good?
I don't believe you do need to vote on that, no.
Okay. Any comments from any board members? Any thoughts?
So we'll work through.
Okay, hearing none.
We'll work through you, Greg, then to see where we are in terms of applicants and what you want to do at your April board or your May board meeting.
Okay. Okay. If there's no additional comments, I'll move on to item number 7, personnel. Do we need to go into non-public for that?
Not necessarily. I mean, this is posted in a public session. You have a resignation from one of our teachers dated for the end of the year. That's Amanda Knight, who is the 7-8 math teacher. Beth, do you want to make a comment here?
Amanda decided to resign. I'm sorry, she did it before the renominations, but I did not have a letter in hand, so that's why it's on this agenda. But Amanda, who has worked very hard for us, has decided to move on and actually take a break from education for a little while and do some other things. So publicly, I would thank her for all of her hard work and wish her the best. And we are putting together an interview committee. We actually have already posted the position. Applicants are coming in very slowly, probably because of the situation we're all in. But I'll keep you updated on that probably next month.
Okay. And do we need to accept and vote?
Yes, please. If you would accept the resignation, that'd be great.
Let's vote on this. Okay, 1 minute. With regrets, we accept the motion to accept the resignation of Amanda Knight as the grade 7-8 math teacher effective the end of this school year. Can I get a second?
A second.
Can I'm sorry, my internet went unstable. I didn't hear who made the motion.
I did, Rhonda.
Okay.
And Mark, I believe, was the second.
And Mark seconded.
Okay.
And now we roll call.
Greg Merrill,
Yes.
Greg Parrish,
Yes.
Mark Lane,
Yes.
and Jason Farias.
Yes.
I have the vote recorded.
Thank you. Do we have a non-public this evening, Dr.
Do not have need of a non-public.
Okay. And what I don't see is another public comment. Did we just take that off or no?
We only included the one on this agenda.
Okay, that's fine. Well, before we adjourn, I want to thank Beth and the staff. We've already, Greg said some wonderful things, and I agree with everything Greg said. You guys and Dr. Lupini, you and your team, I'm absolutely amazed at what you guys are doing. And, you know, I want to thank you because I know you, as well as all the staff members, are going above and beyond the call right now. And so thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
I agree.
Thank you.
Any additional comments from the board?
Just a real quick question. More, I guess, directed towards Bill. Do you think this is there's value in, or that this is a good opportunity for us from a PR standpoint to send something out to the town that sort of summarizes exactly what you guys tell us in these meetings? Because, you're doing stuff that I never in my head would have thought needed to be done. But obviously, once you mention it, oh yeah, of course that has to be done. And it'd be wonderful if our particularly in Hampton Falls, if a lot of these residents really understood this, and at least saw really what goes on during crises like this and why we need the support group people that we do and why we hire the people that we do.
I don't think it's a great time right now for that. I think there probably will be a time. I don't think it's this moment. I mean, I do, we try to get the word out about things like those forums and all that we're doing. I hope people are taking advantage of some of the things that we are. I think word of mouth, if you get a chance to mention to people, and we use Twitter and all kinds of other sources to try to get that information out. And we've had 150, 175 people for 3 of those Saturday forums. We have a lot of people joining us to ask a lot of questions. But I'm afraid of how that might come across right now in this moment.
I just, in the back of my head, in times of uncertainty, this is I guess something that would feel in my head, and it would feel comfortable knowing that things are being taken care of.
Yeah.
So I'd like to keep that in the back of our head, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a good question. And as I said, I'm going to be with the senator, and I know your town administrator on Thursday. Any chance I can get to sort of get the word out about things that we're doing and hope that they'll share with people as well, we'll take advantage of.
Wonderful.
And I've seen each of the Saturday morning sessions, and they're fantastic. I think they're great. No, they are, and I think the questions are great.
They are great. They're kind of fun.
Yeah, they are. And I think the inclusion of Bill last week was a really nice, a good idea.
Yeah,
no, they're
great.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, people really wanted to hear from the high school principal. They did.
Yeah, and I thought he did a great job.
He did a great job.
That being said, before we adjourn, we have our joint meeting,
Thursday.
We don't have your sound, Greg.
Thursday, yeah.
Can we get him one of those free?
I think I need one too, Bill.
Greg, I'm putting in a new router tomorrow. I'm going to send you mine. Okay?
You didn't hear anything I just said, did you?
Not one word.
No, totally blocked.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
You heard that, Greg.
I'll make a motion. Did you get that, Rhonda?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just going to mark this as unanimous.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
See you later.